and I am the advisor to the African Students Union. And on behalf of this organization, I welcome all of you to Safari Night. Tonight, we will take you on a journey back in time and space to South Africa. When we arrive, you will see a father who speaks to his son about his past experiences. This father was born in South Africa and lived there for 43 years, realistically. But 10 years ago, he migrated to the United States. You do the math. How old is he? Next, we will take you to other villages where you will find all kinds of activities that I hope you will enjoy. And finally, you will listen to Nelson Mandela as he presents the inaugural speech that he presented in 1994. Now, ladies and gentlemen, remember, since we're traveling to South Africa, we must go on the Jumbo Airlines. So we are going to travel on the Dreamliner 787. However, there are two things you must do. One, fasten your seatbelts in case of emergency through what? Turbulence. Number two, our navigation system is
non-existent. Welcome to Africa.
Not cell phone user friendly. So please, do me a favor, look at your phones and move that dial to
airplane mode.
No.
Airplane mode.
Thank you very much, and I want all of... Who did that? my student. Come with me now to South Africa. Thank you, Helen.
Who did that?
Apartheid officially began in 1948. Africa's history of racial domination and oppression began as early as the mid-17th century, when the Dutch East India Company set up a provisioning station on the Cape. White settlers from the Netherlands arrived in South Africa in the mid-17th century, forcing the occupants of South Africa out of the land and using them as laborers. The apartheid was a creation of 317 laws by D.F. Malan's Nationalist Party, which was elected in 1948. The apartheid only proceeded to add structure to the racial segregation and domination that already existed within the nation. Even before 1948, the Nationalist Party feared the influx of Africans into white towns and therefore restricted the areas in which they could live. The whites passed various bills in the next 4 decades to ensure that the movement of Africans into the towns were kept at a minimum, and also sought political, economical, and social domination.
Dad, I'm reading about South African history and I just can't imagine living under such oppression. But Dad, you lived through such oppression. Dad, what was apartheid?
Well, son, those were the dark days. And apartheid is actually where the government instituted a law, they legislated it, that each race would live separately, would evolve on their own. They didn't want the races to mix. So simply the definition of apartheid is to live separately.
That also brought about the mixed marriage and immorality act. What was that about?
Well, the Mixed Marriages Act and the Immorality Act was a really, really crazy act. The Mixed Marriages Act defined that no black person was to marry any white person. No blacks were to marry whites at all. And with that act came the Immorality Act. And the Immorality Act was no black person could have any sexual intercourse with white people. And so, in fact, if you married, you were either thrown out of the country or you were put in jail because of the Immorality Act.
What about the Group Area Act? What was that about?
Well, that was a sad day. The Group Areas Act was when the government came and took all the land from the Africans, the whites, and the coloreds, and pushed us into, we call them squatter camps. And there were thousands and thousands of squatter camps created in the rural areas. And so, in fact, they pushed all the Africans, the Indians, the coloreds into the rural areas and kept the urban areas just only for the white folk.
What about the Population Registration Act?
Oh, it's the Population Registration Act. Wow.
The history.
That was when the government decided to categorize each race. First class were whites, second class were coloreds, third class were Indians, and fourth class were blacks. And that's how it was categorized in South Africa. 4 distinct classes.
Dad? What do you call it?
Colored. Oh, the colored race is a mixture of black and white. And in fact, many colored families, you either fell into the second category or the fourth category. In fact, when you took your child for registration, they put a pencil in the child's hair. And if the pencil fell off, the child stayed second class. And if the pencil stayed in the hair, the child went into the fourth class. And it was entirely dependent on the color of the skin. So it's all about the color.
In terms of education, Dad, how was school back then?
Well, education is don't have much time for education, but my own experience, in fact, education was, let me give you an example. The white kid got $1,000, and then the next race, the colored kid got $10, and the Indian kid got $5, and the black kid got no dollars for education. So there was no schools, no education facilities provided for the races. And so we started off at state-aided schools. In fact, my personal experience, my first 4 years of my schooling was under a tree. No books, no schools, just listening to the teacher. And thereafter, we were pushed into a dilapidated building with no desks and no books. So education was really, really difficult. In fact, I completed all my schooling years at night.
There was some horrible times for you there.
Yeah, so those are the terrible times. Those are terrible times. But son, let me tell you another story.